This is Raging Bull Man Fernandez, and you're listening In Your Head. And if you guys want to know true stories about wrestling and great individuals you want to talk to and find out more about some of the old legends of wrestling, stay tuned for this.
All right, and welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I am the internet icon, handsome Jackie Jones, along with my right-hand man and the enforcer of the Headyverse.
1-inch biceps, the power goat. How about that?
That's pretty good. Joining us here right off the bat, and he might be wondering why right now. He is from the legendary Guerrero family. We are very pleased to have Hector with us here on the show. How you doing?
Hey, just fine, Jack. Thank you for having me on the show. It's always a privilege to talk to you and to anybody that's listening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, and of course, people hear the Guerrero name and they know right away it's a legendary wrestling family. And so, what was that like for you to grow up in such a prestigious family, or maybe you didn't even realize that when you were a kid?
Well, when we were kids, we didn't look at it that way. We just look at it that we had a famous father, and his name was Gory Guerrero, and we knew that he had a wrestling life, but we also had a home life too. It was both, but the wrestling was very much a big part of us too, especially when he became a promoter in El Paso. Then we became a promoting family, and then it was always around because we, mastermind around the table and promotional ideas. And I was getting it from the best, man. I believe, people would say a lot of things about my dad, but I know he was one of the best. And a lot of people told me that he was one of the best. Promoters, wrestlers, human beings, a beautiful person. And always very strict, but always very honest and very, he was so honest that people took advantage of him. And those people that did, there's all types of people in life that do that. Mm-hmm. But we're supposed to forgive them, and we do, and God takes care of the circumstances. Hopefully, they repent and don't have to reap the consequences of their errors.
And when you say, people took advantage of him, did when all of you guys got into the business, into wrestling, did he tell you things to look out for?
Yeah, he did. He told us a lot of things, and a lot of things we learned on our own. And I would sometimes, like in my trips home, I'd come home from being abroad and wrestling already as a wrestler. I would ask him, I said, Dad, I wish you would have talked to me about this. I said, well, there's some things that you got to learn on your own, he'd say. And that's very true, There were certain things that I needed to learn on my own. It made it very, difficult because you want to have a heads up on everything, and you have a father that can tell you that. He can tell you so much, but experience is going to tell you more, too, and so you learn both ways.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to mention on your website, HectorWrestlingGuerrero.com, we'll have the link right on the website so you can click on easily. You offer consulting for wrestlers. And is part of the reason you do that is to hand down some of the old school knowledge that your father did and maybe some of the guys are missing out on?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of more embedded into me, I can dissect the wrestler. I can dissect the promotion. I can dissect, sometimes you can dissect other, if it happens to be like MMA or it happens to be like boxing or something like that, very, very similar to the wrestling promotion as far as it being, and likewise promoting it. Very, very, very similar situations. I'm able to dissect it that way too. And what I mean by dissect it, I can tell you what's wrong and what's going on with it. And I don't act like I boast and I know everything. It's just the experience that I've had with, it's been a lifetime. I say 50 plus years. I'm 61 now. But I was eating it when I was 3-4 years old, man. I was doing somersaults and going to the gym with my father when he had all of us doing that, man. All of us. And Eddie was one of them, too. And Eddie had it from all of us, too, because not only did he have my dad, he had Chavo, Mondo, myself, and then he had the input of my sisters, and then my mother. My mother's very much she could dissect any promotion and tell you what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by wrong with it is that she can probably tell you to make it better. How little things that we overlook or little things that we don't know. And she tells me a lot of things sometimes that I learned through her that my dad taught her, and that they would discuss a lot of things that I never, that I would miss out because I was either too young or not at that time. But a lot of things were passed on. And then, all the promotions I worked for, man. I started working in Mexico for the independent promotion in Mexico called it was called Los Independientes, and they were headed by Mr. Flores, and he had guys like El Santo, my dad, and then he had 7 guys that broke away from the main office. Imagine 7 stars breaking away from Vince McMahon at one time and going to independence. That's what they did in Mexico back in 1970s. And the reason they did it is because the promotion there was really abusing the wrestlers in pay, and they doubled. They were getting, like, back then they were getting 200 pesos a match. Then all of a sudden they went to independence. They were making 2,000 to 3,000 pesos a match, and that was a big jump for them, And you're multiplying it by 10, And they understood now that what the promotion back then, Luderoff promotion at that time, which it was really making a lot of money on them,
Mm-hmm.
And that usually happens, in promotions. But the wealth should be shared equally, and it just depends.
Mm-hmm. Now,
depends on how what your deal is. How you manipulate your deal now.
Yeah. So when you actually talk about consulting, it's not just necessarily. It could be a lot of things. The wrestling itself, how to conduct yourself as like a businessman, things to look out for, and explain in your own words. What do you think you do with your consulting?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly because then I'd be giving you a consulting.
I know, but in general, yeah.
Well, Jack, let me put it to you this way. Look, I could if somebody if you said you were going to start, and I could if I was going to be your consultant, I would actually, if I had to, I'd start training you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would actually train somebody if they want to be a consultant, but we have to come in agreement because I'm not just going to do this for free.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wrestlers nowadays, and a lot of the young guys, forgive me for saying this, but a lot of the young guys nowadays, they want it for free, and they think that we owe it to them, and we don't. We don't owe them nothing. I had to find everything out on the heart and go out on the road, and somebody's going to, learn from me. He can share the wealth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's something that can be talked about and something that can be agreed upon. And if they don't want to do it, but then go ahead and go do it go do it as hard as you want to do what you want. Mm-hmm. And but I've seen other guys that have gone pretty fast. And I've talked to certain people that have made it real quick. And I think one of them could tell you that would be, you could tell, I'm pretty sure Goldberg would say something, because I had him in the 7th match. We had a long talk after that. Mm-hmm. He might not want to acknowledge it, because, usually people that get to that position, they always try to, give themselves the glory. And usually, I should tell you that this Guerrero, I want to give God the glory in a lot of things that I do, because and I'm talking about the good things in my life, because he's backed me up. He put me in the right kind of family and gives me a lot of common sense to understand this business. And if it wouldn't be for his anointing on my life and the clarity of mind that I have about it, I wouldn't be able to do it. But I can look at. I can see why it's declining on the WWE right now. I can tell you what's declining. I can tell you why TNA's drawing a fifth of what they used to draw on TV viewers. I can tell you, my God, the promotions that I see, that could have almost get it there, but they're missing something. Sometimes it's just a little thing, and it means something to a lot that somebody that would be willing to pay for it. But and they were, like I said, everybody wants it for free. So you know what? Go find it out on your own. You know, there is answers out there for making things click. I think you understand that, and that's why they pay people CEOs and make people CEO of companies, because they know what they're doing and they know how to do it. Well, that's kind of like in the position where I think every Guerrero, as far as my family goes, can do that. Because what? Because we've been through promotions and we promoted ourselves, and not only that, we've probably done every job that has to do with it. You know, it might be to say, well, you know, you're not up to date with how we do it now, because we do everything, you know, in the internet and all this and that. Well, it's still, the basics are still the same. And if you apply the basics to what the news coming in, it's going to work.
Now, when you were in TNA, did you offer any advice? And if you did,
I did. It was
ever...
never taken, really, with all due respect. They heard some things that I had to say, and some things I was wrong one time, and I knew that I was wrong, but I guess they lost trust in me. And but other things that I did tell them, you know, I guess they realized it. And some things I told them that they never fixed, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're at where they're at. Now, TNA's treated me with the best of, always best of, very, very, very professional with me, from the Carters all the way through to all the people in there. There's certain people there that I don't see eye to eye. I don't say anything, because, you know, that's who they are. You know, I don't see eye to eye with them, but that's what they are. So, but as far as, you know, the people that are in charge, the people that are the owners, man, they treat me with the most respect, and so do I. I treat them with the most respect, and have them dearly, dearly thankful for the 8 years of great times that I had there, good opportunities. You know, they only kept me in the announcer's table and a lot of the little things that they let me do. But I wish I could have done more for them. I really wanted to, but it never happened. So it wasn't meant to be.
You had a short run with LAX, which LAX for a while was, I thought, like the hottest act on TNA. What did you think about your role with them? Do you think you were a good fit with LAX, and do you think they could have actually done more with LAX?
Well, remember now, I'm LAX. They were like the new style of Latino Latin Americans, not Mexican. Remember, I'm a Mexican. Latin Americans, and I really enjoyed being a part of them, and had a great time with both Dee and Sean, because that's their real names, Homicide and Fernandez. And Fernandez treated me with a lot of respect, and so did Dee, and they were great together. And when we were all three and we were in sync, what a tag team, man. I mean, wow, it was great, man. It's great opportunities to have worked with them, and I enjoyed both of them very much. No, I don't have any bad things to say about them. Just a little bit different in their Latin American, expressions than I am. I'm not, I'm not with the signs and, too much of the Cholo style. But I'm more of a Mexican from Mexico. You know, I was raised that way. But you know what? But you adopt. So if you see me, I learned how to do their signs and do them, because it was what it was called for. And hey, I enjoyed it. Every time we went up to the ring, and everything we did, and the opportunities that the office gave us there, that was a great time. I sure enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, you just mentioned there about, they were Latin Americans, you're Mexican, and do you think sometimes promotions don't necessarily know the difference, and it's not like necessarily that they're trying to be mean or do the wrong thing. They just don't know the difference between, they kind of think everyone is the same, and want to, if they want like a new Latin or Mexican star, they kind of think all of them fit in the same category?
You know what, Jack? Sometimes I think that you're right in what you just said, because they have gotten some people, because they think they're Latin, they think they can portray the Latin, and I'm talking about the Mexican, to try to get the Mexican American. But very few have done that translation between Lucha and American, and then marrying both of them. The Guerreros have been one family that did it. And then also Ray. You're talking about we call him Huevitos. We love him so much. We're talking about Mysterio. His dad, they were raised in the border of California, and he got both sides of the border. So when you see that, when you're raised, we were raised in El Paso and Juarez, and our promotions were both in El Paso and in Juarez. The only reason we lost our promotion was because we lost it to a guy that the owner of the TV station in Mexico was, forgive me for saying it, but he was a pedophile, and the other promotion fed him the circumstance. You know, I don't want to say it out loud, but that's the truth. That's what happened, and so all of a sudden, the other promotions in after we had been successfully with them close to 15 years, you know, and one of their top-ranked TV stations, and not that we lost our viewership, we never lost it. Then as even a fact, I kept on the promotion about another 2 to 3 years with my father, and then my dad turned it loose on me, and I kept it going for a long time until he said he wanted to close it down. I said, Dad, I can keep it going. He said, I know. He says, but I want to close it down. I said, all right, Dad, it's your thing, and you know, closed it down, and that's when I decided to leave as a you know, and started wrestling on the wrestling scene in the United States and Mexico.
Mm-hmm. When you're wrestling at the different, you know, then there's territories, and there's when you're wrestling at different territories, did you find that you'd have to wrestle a different style depending which territory you're at?
Well, we had. You see, I grew up watching the American style and doing the Spanish style because I trained. I would train. My dad gave me the girls to train in Mexico. Mm-hmm. We had a school, and we had an arena, and we had the school, and we also had boxing matches. My uncle, I had an uncle which is a boxer. His name is Paul Guerrero. He's now also in heaven. My uncle Paul, he was a boxer, and he had his boxing matches in our arena too. But what I'm trying to say, when I was in the training of that, we were trained Spanish style, and I'm talking about lucha style, and I got the full training on lucha style. Not only that, all of us brothers, all Guerreros, had judo training too. We all were. One of my uncles was a trainer, and him, you know, a judoka, and he was a sensei, or if you want to call it that way. And he trained all of us in judo when we were young in Mexico City. So it was from our youth, man. You know, from judo, then straight to amateur wrestling, then and also at I remember in my high school years, I was wrestling on the amateur wrestling team at the school, and then I was also on certain days of the week going and doing and like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays doing a class of girls and teaching them professional wrestling in Juarez. So we were both. I'm talking about all three of us, Chavo, Mondo, and myself, and Eddie too. And Junior got it a little bit different, but he got it too. I'm talking about Chavo Jr. Mm-hmm. And but we got it that way, and we had the input of my dad all the time, and he talking to our ears. And my dad had a lot of input from guys that were very, very famous in Mexico. You know, very famous trainers. Diablo Velasco was one of his trainers, and he was from Guadalajara, Mexico. And then him and El Santo made a great tag team called La Pareja Atómica, and they made history in Mexico, and that's how my dad became a legend. And not because of El Santo, because my dad was known as el ave de las tempestades, which means the phoenix bird, which is the phoenix bird of war. And they called him that because everywhere he went, and usually almost a lot of times he caused riots because the people hated him so much. My dad was a bad guy, a heel, what we call a heel, mm-hmm. And that was his persona, the La Furia del Ring, they called him, the Fury of the Ring. So he was known in Mexico as a very intimidating heel, very intimidating bad guy, and that's how he made his fame in Mexico. And besides all the championships he won throughout the years, being world light heavyweight champion for numerous years, bringing the belt to the United States, bringing it back to Mexico, and so many times, so many things happening. So does that help you out a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Now, you said your dad was mostly a heel. Whenever I saw you, you always were a good guy. Did you work heel in some of the other territories?
Yeah. I was when I came to Florida my second time. I was a babyface. Both times, first time I came babyface, and then I started being a good guy, and then finally good guy, and then Dusty and I had a little talk, and he was a booker, and he said, "What do you think about going bad?" I go, "I love it. Let me try it." And I went bad, and that means a heel. And then Chavo was calling me on the phone, my oldest brother, Chavo Classic, and he needed a place to go. And we talked. I talked to Dusty. I said, "Hey, man, I got my brother coming." They had thought about putting me with Gran Marcos, which I love Gran Marcos, and I would have been. I think we would have been a great team. But at that time, Chavo was pressuring me, and needed a place. So I talked to Dusty, and Dusty said, "Yeah, man, he's your blood, right?" "Yeah." I said, "We know each other in the ring, man." And it worked out even better because, I think Marcos and I would have been a great team, but I think Chavo and I were a great team, but a little bit better because we're blood. We knew each other. We were going to back each other. I think Marcos and I would have backed each other too, because he's a great guy too. I have tremendous respect for him.
Yeah.
But it ended up being that Chavo came, and Chavo and I became, what we were calling the Bandidos, the Alamo Busters, they used to call us. And we went and worked for here in Florida, and then we went to for Bill Watts, and then Chavo decided to go to Japan and go his way, and I decided to go on my own again.
Mm-hmm.
So, things happen and things life goes, but then again, I was on my own in wrestling, and then I met up with Mondo in Vegas, and we started wrestling for the AWA, and that's when that era went, where all three of us were included,
mm-hmm.
and they would bring all three of us, Chavo, Mondo, and myself. Eddie was getting ready to start wrestling. He was starting to, he was finishing up his amateur career, and he was getting ready to start his pro career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's actually a story up there. It was the AWA when they had their pay-per-view, and you three guys were on, and I think not that long ago, Hector was still not Hector. I'm sorry. Chavo was still mad that he didn't get his payoff for that match.
I've heard that story too, but you know what? I don't know. For me, it's a hearsay story. For me, when I understood, we always got paid, man. So I was happy with the Gagnes, man. They treated us great. The American Wrestling Association, I loved working for Vern. They trusted us so much because they saw how we clicked in the ring. They didn't have to come and worry if the match was going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that we were in the ring. It was going to happen. It was going to be something that people would enjoy, whether it was whatever the orders were given. We were going to be out there 120, 150, 200%. We always wrestled with our heart. Our Guerreros were taught to wrestle with our hearts, and that's something that was inherited and from Chavo Classic through Chavo Jr. All what is it? All five of us. It just comes from our heart.
Mm-hmm.
It became Eddie. Now Eddie hit the big time with Vince, and Vince liked Eddie. He's
mm-hmm.
not necessarily like me, never liked me, but he did. I liked Chavo too for a while. Just Chavo messed up his opportunities, and he's still great for it. Chavo's a knowledge of so much wrestling in him. He could be any consultant to any of the companies and make it a whole lot better. Mm-hmm. And so could Mondo. Mondo is not only is he a wrestler, a great wrestler and great mind for wrestling, but he's also a stuntman and done a lot of things in the movies.
Oh, really?
And so he's got Hollywood in his back pocket. He's even retired from the Hollywood from the Stuntmen's Association.
Mm-hmm.
So Mondo's got all Hollywood and all that, and he's got a lot of good stuff, man. So Guerrero's, I could imagine if we ever got together and we could get our differences aside, as sometimes, because even brothers, I'm sure you got a brother or maybe Ken or something that. There's always something,
Mm-hmm.
But I believe if we ever got together and we got coincide, there would be nothing stopping us, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could. I know it. I feel it in my heart, and that's the way it was when we were with my dad. We were called Guerrero Resources Incorporated, and it was my dad's thing, and he was the head of the ship, and we were a part of the ship, man.
Mm-hmm. Chavo Jr. Just recently when he was in Lucha Underground, I thought that was some of his best stuff I've seen him ever do. His promos were great there.
Yeah, he is. He's great. He's good. he's really come along. He's flourished in what the gift that comes with the Guerrero name. And I think he'll understand that the way, I hope he's hearing right now because I love him dearly and I miss him. And we stay in touch, and when we talk with kindness and love, and I do with all my brothers, and have tremendous respect for all of my brothers and their ideas in professional wrestling because I know their caliber of understanding of it. My oldest brother Chavo and I talk, and he says, "Hey, it's so simple, huh?" And we look at it, and we see the promotion, and we understand it that it's so simple that they're complicating it, and they're trying to make it better. So they're trying to complicate it so much that they're ruining it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of stuff we talk about on the show a lot. I watch wrestling since I was a kid, and I don't know. I just think if it was just like NXT, for example, I think what makes that a good show is it's just everyone's trying to win. All the single guys are trying to win the title. All the tag teams are trying to win the tag team championship. All the women are trying to win the women's belt. And they're trying to win so they can go for the belts. And it's just really simple, and I think that's what's good about it.
Well, that's what it's called, right? Competition,
Yeah.
And even though our it is an entertainment sport and it is promoter controlled, there is a lot of competition involved in the professional wrestling, and people don't realize that. And how real it is, it's very real. My body is battered. People sometimes see me limping, and they go, "Hey, man, what's wrong with you?" I go, "Hey, well, that's the mileage I got on this body, man. I got over 50 years in a professional wrestling ring because I started when I was a kid, and I used to take bumps when I was a kid because I had to teach the bumps, and teach how to fall and teach how to walk in the ring, how to measure the ring, how to know your whereabouts in the ring. There's exercises that you do, how to do coordination drills." See, some of these companies, they do all these other things, to get them in shape and all that, but they don't realize all the coordination and lucha drills that really are so good for learning your craft. And wrestling's a craft; it's an art.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk about Florida quick because I actually just watched. They just sent it to us. It was a great DVD. It's Back to the Territories. And it's Kevin Sullivan talking about the Florida promotion, and you
Florida
said,
Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, with Eddie Graham, and
yes.
Was Eddie still there when you were there?
Oh yeah, many times. When I turned bad guy, he's the one that was he was right into my ear, talking to me and giving me a lot of input, and helped me out tremendously with it, because I knew what my dad had taught me on it, and I knew what I had seen from him. And I was mimicking a lot of things that he had done. I'm talking about my father, Gory. But when Eddie came, Eddie and my dad were very close friends. So Eddie just got me under his wing, and boy. And Mike Graham, too. Mike had a lot of input in me, and Eddie. And then also Blackjack Mulligan had some input in me, treated me like a son. And I'm talking about great people, man, good family people. And not only that, man, that good wrestling people, because I have seen guys that know the wrestling business, but the Grahams, they knew the wrestling business with a finesse. And I talk it, and it's unfortunately that Mike Graham is not here with us. He just, I think you understand that a couple of years ago he committed suicide, which is very, very, very distraughting to me because I loved him so much. But he had a finesse for wrestling. He understood wrestling. He could dissect the promotion like I'm what I'm telling you about, and he'd tell you what's wrong with it. He'd tell you how to fix it. And one guy that won't admit it, but they took his advice in WCW, and all of a sudden it became a sensation. It went from being so-so ratings to great ratings. It was competing against Vince and outdoing Vince, and it was Mike Graham's idea. And I won't say who it was in charge of him, but I think you can figure it out. But it was Mike Graham that gave those ideas, and Mike told me that because I sat down with him right about a year ago before he passed away, and I actually took him to TNA. And but I refused to listen to him. So he went back home. So it's okay, you know. I mean, everything has a circumstance. It has a circumstance. But the Grahams, they knew wrestling. I could, you know, everything was clockwork with them. You know, you could see the matches and the way they were building to the end. And when that last match would hit and the building of that match to the end, it was an explosion at the end of the night. So here you have the next Tuesday night at the Armory, and it's packed because you're just already doing. I mean, you're still doing those certain matches that you're waiting to see, but it's because of the excitement that they had the whole night before, the week before, and this is a weekly promotion, man. And they did this not only in Tampa, they did this in West Palm Beach, in Miami, and Fort Pierce, in Orlando, in Jacksonville, and Tallahassee. I'm telling you, because I used to do the territory with them. And I enjoyed every bit of it. The first time I came to Florida was in 1980. Second time I came about 83, 84. That's when I became a heel. And then I came again and left, and then for a couple of shots. And then I came in 2000 and stayed in because I asked God. I always wanted to be a place where where the beach is, and I love the beaches in Florida. So I ended up here, man, and I got married to my original sweetheart, which was Penny, my wife.
Mm-hmm. No, you mentioned Dusty Rhodes was also there booking the territory when you were there. Was like your meeting him in Florida what led you to eventually go into the Crockett's?
Yes, it sure did. It eventually led me going to the Crockett's because I was in Florida and there were some things that happened here that I didn't see eye to eye with some of the people that were asking me to do certain things, and I had worked my butt off to get to the position where I was, and they were trying to smash me down. And Dusty had already left, and he had taken a lot of people from Florida, and they were already working for Crockett. Well, when Dusty left, it left a lot of other people here. And my brother and I, Chavo and I, were in Japan when that happened. And we came back from Japan, we came back to Florida, and they were all gone. Dory Jr. was doing the booking, which was great because Dory Jr. is a great booker, awesome booker, and he was territory was holding its own. It was doing good, and stayed here for a while, and then Waco McDaniels came in, and as a booker, and Waco and I stayed here and for a long time, and then things ran out for him, and things ran out for me. And like I say, there was a disagreements here or there, and I respected what they did, but I was standing my ground too. And I led. Ric Flair was next to one of the last nights that I wrestled here, and he says, I heard you're leaving. I go, yeah. He says, you got somewhere to go? I said, no. He says, see, Dusty wants you to call him. So I called Dusty, and Dusty says, hey, you got a starting date. He gave me a starting date. So I started in Carolinas.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did Lasertron come about? Was that...
Well, I was up there, and Dusty and I I was pretty close to Dusty, and I was always challenging his guys that he was trying to push, because I was trying to show him that I could do it too, and he knew that I could do it. And but I came up with an idea. I said, I guess I need to do something so that he'll work with me. So I went to Dusty and I said, hey man, I got an idea. At that time they come out with this laser tag thing with a laser tag with a gun and the thing in the chest, and there was also a big thing about the kids with Transformers. Mm-hmm. So I joined an idea, lasers and Transformers. So I called it Lasertron. And then the suit came out, and it eventually developed to what it developed towards the end of it, But first it was just, I didn't have tights, it was just the trunks and the top part and the boots that I had. But then later on it turned out to get the whole outfit. And once the whole outfit came out, it was a pretty cool outfit. Mm-hmm. And the idea was for the children, something the children could identify. And we So we called it, Lasertron, and Dusty liked it, and Dusty pushed for it, and Lasertron became the world junior heavyweight champion. And then, then things started turning for me here. I'm talking about there, when I was there. There was two, Crockett had two tours going on at the same time. You were either on the A tour or the B tour. I was on the B tour, but main eventing with Jimmy Valiant. Jimmy and I were main events. And sometimes the rock and roll would come and do a week with us. So we were either semis next to them, and they were doing against some other bad guys, and then Jimmy and I were doing either against the New Breed. A lot of times, they had I can't remember there was a law enforcement group. I'm trying to remember their names. They were real good guys. I liked them. I liked wrestling with them, and so we had a lot of circumstances like that, but it wasn't that great. And the pays were not that great. And if you were in the B tour, so I was trying to always sometimes, hey man, I need some A tours here, man, because so they give you once in a while they give you an A tour for 1 week, like maybe one out of the month or one every 2 months. So so you can make up with the money that you've been spending on the road. So that's the deal. That's why I decided. I went in one day, I turned in the belt, and I said, you know what, I got myself another place to go, and I just left. I called and I went to Tennessee. I called Tennessee first, and they were willing to take me and ready for me to be a bad guy in Tennessee. And at that time, Manny Fernandez was doing the same thing, and we meet up in Tennessee together, and we happened to became a tag team in Tennessee, bad guy tag team. Yeah. We did pretty good there.
Mm-hmm. Inch and I are both fans of Manny. We've had him on the show many times.
Manny Fernandez?
He's quite a
great guy.
Yeah. And we met him many times too. He's man. Was that Incher?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he's one of the best. He's one of the best. Not commentating, but I mean, he's one of the best interview guys I've ever heard. Him and Arn Anderson, and there's a lot of guys that are great. Very good. Mm-hmm. But Manny hits it on the nose all the time, and so does Arn. Arn's pretty good too. Arn Anderson.
Mm-hmm. Incher, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question of my own. I was just wondering, what style of wrestling do you prefer, like the lucha or like the U.S. pro wrestling? Or
well, we married both of them, and that's the one I prefer. So when I went to Mexico, because I did go to Mexico even after being in the States, I went to Mexico in the 90s and wrestled as Lasertron in Mexico, but with a different outfit. They asked me to do their outfit, but they liked the name, so we did it, and we called it Lasertron and spelled it different. We spelled it Lassertron, and I had a like a red, white, and blue outfit because of Love Machine, which was our bar, had a lot of Éxito. He had a lot of success with that. Uh-huh. And they wanted to duplicate it. I told them that it was different, that I was a different guy, but they says, it's okay, you're Mexican-American, you can speak the English, you understand it. I go, all right, well, and he was so hard on it. I'm talking about Paco Alonso. And so, I wrestled in Mexico as Lazortron. And I prefer, listen, I really do. Mexican wrestling is so pure, you wouldn't, you think it's flying. Yes, it is. It's a lot of flying. But it's also a lot of wrestling, too, and a lot of, it's an art. So everything, it has an art. But I also like the American wrestling because of the seriousness it brings. Now, if you join that with the Japanese style, with the suplexes and all that, now you have a hybrid, man. You got lucha, you got American, and you got Japanese. Mm-hmm. And if I was also in Spain, so I added to a lot of that. I added my Spanish style when I learned it in Spain in 1974 when I was 19 years old. When I spent a whole summer and wrestled in Spain, where American wrestlers were there. I'm talking about from South America, too. Tito Copa from Argentina, a Peruvian guy there, Inca Peruana from Peru. And then we also had people coming in from Germany, that were wrestling, people coming in from England that were wrestling, Barry Douglas, people coming in from France, Sean Brustol, all these guys that were wrestling there, they had input in my life because I would go work out in they had like a dojo, like a ring, and you go work out every day, and when you were in town, and I was we were in Valencia, Spain, and Mondo and I, my brother Mondo and I went to Spain. That's where we were. We were almost 3.5 months there, and enjoyed every bit of it, and we got all this wealth of wrestling style, European wrestling style influxed into us. Plus, we had our lucha style, which they liked.
Yeah.
And they had seen before because there had been some people that had been from Mexico and gone. And Antonio Montoro, which was a Spaniard, he'd been in Mexico and he'd come back, and so he brought a lot of the Mexican wrestling to Spain. So they knew our style, and then we had what my dad had instilled in us, how we grab a hold, how you grab a headlock, how you don't, there's little things that'll instead of making you look like a sloppy wrestler, and I can tell you, I can look at a guy and I'll tell you if he's sloppy or not, if he knows his art or if he doesn't know it. I can tell you if he knows how to wrestle, if he don't, just by the way he hooks up, just by how he ties up, by he shakes your hand, I can tell you that.
You mentioned wearing the red, white, and blue for Lasertron in Mexico. Did you get a lot of heat for that? Because I know Art Bar and Eddie as Los Gringos Locos, they got a tremendous amount
the Gringos
of heat.
Locos, yeah, they were doing it at the same time, but because that Eddie was doing a gimmick that was called Máscara Mágica, and then he turned that in and he went to AAA, and Art Bar was already there, and we were all staying in the same hotel. We were all staying in Madrid in Mexico City. So we were all like a family. Even Tonga was there. We had the Guerreros there, Tonga was there, Art Bar was there with his family. So we were all like a family. So we'd meet every day, either sometimes they were able to fly in or you'd be in at certain places in Mexico City, and then we'd all meet back at the bar at 1 or 2 in the morning, and we'd always a wealth of understanding and talking to each other and all that. But to bring that, your question was about Art Bar, right? And they weren't. They thought it was cool. They thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
They liked it, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So Lasertron was getting, it was starting to go over, I thought, except things didn't happen well with, I had made an agreement with them, a certain money agreement, and when they approached me with it, that they were going to change it. And I didn't think it was worth my time staying. Plus, I was going through a divorce, and I didn't need that problem. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so I decided to leave Mexico because it's just I wasn't going to stay there unless they were going to keep continuing their end of the bargain.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing mine. I was wrestling, giving it my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And but. I guess it didn't work out. And you know what? I have nothing against that. And I've talked to Paco since then. And as a matter of fact, when we did TNA, I had I did some consulting for them in Mexico and brought the two companies together. For a while, it worked really good. They brought 4 wrestlers over, and then we took 4 wrestlers from TNA to Mexico City, and it was working out good. And then somebody messed it up, which I won't say who it was, but somebody did. And, all the hard work that I did for 2 years went just down the drain. That happens, though.
Mm-hmm. That, Inchman, did you have another question?
Yeah, I had one from Changeman on the message board. He wants to know, what would you consider your best match you ever had?
You know what? They're all my best matches, man. Everyone I went in, I gave it my heart. Mm-hmm. And if it was somebody that was difficult, my dad taught us this: if you can wrestle with a broom, you can wrestle with anybody. So, I think you ever seen the movie with Cheech and Chong, with Cheech and Chong are wrestling the Invisible Man?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
It's hilarious, man. But it's funny, but if you think about it, it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. But I've had a lot of wrestlers that have wrestled. And my family stands out there because, times that I wrestled Eddie, times that I wrestled Mondo, times that I wrestled my brother Chavo, the times that I wrestled with my dad, I learned so much from him. And he says, actually wrestling during Eddie and I wrestled for WCW against each other. And I enjoyed every bit of that. And then I can tell you, somebody that would bring you to your max, and if you didn't have it, you couldn't hang with him. That was Chris Benoit. And probably everybody will remember him for what he did, his last thing, his demise. Mm-hmm. But that's probably one of the best wrestlers ever to step into a professional wrestling ring. Mm-hmm. I totally respected him in the ring, and knew his caliber that was way above many other wrestlers. And he always brought his A+ game. And if you weren't at your A+, he was going to eat you up. And that's what I talk about. I'm talking about competition in the ring. You got to have your A+. You got to be there. You got to be in good condition. That's the way it is in Japan. You go to Japan and they test you, man. And that's why you got to be the best that you can be in the ring at any time.
Mm-hmm. No, obviously, Eddie became world champion in WWE, which is at WrestleMania. And what was that like, to see your younger brother and part of the Guerrero family to achieve, such a big status in professional wrestling?
Well, we've all been world champions, mm-hmm. All of us,
yeah, including
my dad. So we've all been world champions, even tag team champions as well, too. But Eddie got the World Heavyweight Championship, and from the main company at the time, which is WWE at the time, and that meant a lot. And to me, that brought a joy to my heart, and not something that I would be jealous. No, I don't think so. No, man. We all think, hey, it would have been great if it would have been me. But you know what? That's anybody. You're gonna think about that. But to see, if you knew Eddie and you knew him from the way I know him, the way I know him as my brother in Christ first, and then my brother in the flesh, because he is from our family. I'm talking about the blood family. I'm talking about the Guerrero family, and knew him that way. You love him too, man. He's very lovable now. Everybody misses him, Even the last times that I've been out among public, and they all start, Eddie, and it doesn't hurt me, if at all. If any two brothers ever looked alike, when my hair's grown out and all that, when I have it, colored out, because right now I've gotten completely, I ripped, I just shaved it off, man, because I need it. After coloring my hair for 8 years with TNA, I needed a rest. I need to give it a rest. But knowing, if you ever see the faces, you check Eddie and I, and people, I used to be walking in Mexico City, and they call me Eddie. I turn around. I says, no. I said, Hector. And they start laughing. Then they figure out, yeah, it's Hector. Yeah, it's his older brother. So Dean Malenko used to say it like that. Hey, you want to see Eddie in 20 years? they point at me. They say, hey, it's only 13.
That's definitely the same smile.
Yeah. Eddie was awesome. I know he's in heaven because I've had dreams about him, and we've already communicated. And I've gotten messages from him, and I love it. And I'm happy that he's there, and I'm happy that my father's there, and I'm happy that he's not we're all what's going down here on this earth right now. All the what is it, man? It's crazy here, man. Mm-hmm. The morals of this country it's not the America I knew back 20, 30 years ago. Completely different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to, that was a nice sentiment there. But I just want to mention again, Hector WrestlingGuerrero.com, and the link will be right on the website, so you can click on it, and you can find out how you can get consulting by Hector. And you did mention earlier that Vince never liked you. Was that like personally, or did he just not like your style, or what was it about that he didn't like you?
Well, I think it's a little bit of misunderstanding. I went and did the Gobbledygooker for him. Mm-hmm. So the Gobbledygooker was a flop. The first day it broke out of the egg, because the people at what was it, New Hampshire, or whatever it was over there, they were expecting something else. Mm-hmm. Now the kids loved it, And that's what it was meant for. It was meant for the kids. And it was Vince's idea. I understand that. I was kind of hard to get a hold of for that before they got me to agree to do that, because I had tried calling them, and one time a certain individual, I won't give a name because he knows who he is. I don't need to say it. He really chewed me out. How did you get this number? You don't need it. You never call here again. And bam, it's hung up on me. And so when they were trying to get a hold of me for this, I ignored them, until finally I had my first wife then, and she said, "Hey man, it's WWE. What do you want me to tell them?" I was just hang up, and she kept hanging up. I wouldn't answer her. Finally, I answered the phone one time, and it says Hector Guerrero. I go, yes. It says this is it wasn't WWE. It was WWF at that time. It says this is certain individual. And he says from WWF. Don't hang up. It says Vince McMahon wants to talk to you. I said who? Vince McMahon. I said you got to be kidding me. He said no. He's on. And when he got on the phone, and he says Hector Guerrero, and we started talking. He told me the idea, and it was for the kids, and interesting though, even though I ended up telling them yes, I was pretty much a yes guy because I needed the job, but I wanted to also be a team player for WWE. I wanted them to know that I was on the up and up, that I could be trusted. And I think they sent me to Mexico to do something for Tito Santana, and they sent me some money, to cover expenses and all that. And I showed them that I could be trusted because when I came back from Mexico, I sent receipts and everything, and I sent them back all their money, and they could understand that I could have pretty well put it into my pocket and say that I spent it in Mexico, But I didn't do that, I sent them back everything. I was honest. And so when this thing with the Gobbledygooker went, it was a flop. They did it for about a month later, and I was doing the tours and taking it to the towns, and they finally saw it. They highlighted it in New York one time in Madison Square Garden. He said, we're going to highlight the Gooker. He says, we're going to turn off all the lights and shine you with a spotlight, so go up and do your routine. So, I've been doing it everywhere. It's no problem. I used to flip in and everything into the ring, land on my feet, get a kid, pull him out of the audience, get him up in the ring and dance, turkey and straw with him, and then put him down and, and hug him and put him back with his mommy and daddy, and then, and get the people going around. So that's what I had to do. But right before that, they turned off the lights, and the mask that I had was made to my contour to my face. But the eyes, if you ever noticed the costume that I had, those eyes were made out of plastic, white plastic, and they drilled holes in it, but they were still plastic. So when they shone the white light on me, all I could see was white. And I could hear them screaming, you're on, and they're pushing me. And I'm tripping over the wires. I can't see nothing, man. All I see is white all the way, and I felt my way all the way to the ring. And they still have white light. I could not see anything, man. I'm talking to you. Not dark, it was white. Everything was white. So I felt my way up to the ring, tried to flip in. I couldn't see where I was landing. I landed on my bottom. I flipped in and then landed on my rear end. I got up, I didn't know what to do, so I started acting funny, like it hurt my back, and I started shaking, like it hurt me. I finally started hearing the people laughing, and then they turn on the lights. So now I see the lights. Okay, so now I'm hitting the ropes, I'm doing cartwheels, I'm doing roundhouse, I'm doing the things that I did, and then I went and got a kid and did the thing, and then brought it out and then brought back. So I make it up to the dressing room, right? First thing I see, man, Vince come in, looks at me, giving me the dirtiest look. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he knows that they blinded me and that I couldn't see a thing. So I'm thinking that, right? So then here comes Gorilla Monsoon, opens the door, and he says, you couldn't see a thing. And I go, well, you think? He goes, we finally figured it out. I said, okay, thank you. But they never decided to try it. They thought, okay, just do it, because they knew I could do it. I could do it, but you know what? You never count on those things that, hey, we should have gone through it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a dry run to see see if I can see, you know. And
Yeah.
I couldn't see.
No, was he?
But maybe, well, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you. So maybe that was a little bit then. So then, you know, they decided to send me home, you know, and I was upset because, you know, now they were giving me a stipend, you know, every week, you know. Besides, before when I didn't work, they were sending some money home to me to, you know, because I had made the deal with the company. So now I'm home and I'm not getting anything. And this is, I hear 6, 7, 8 months, nothing, man. And I'm looking for a job, man. You know, they dropped the ball with me. I called, they, you know, nothing, not even taking my calls. So I said, man, these guys are out of it. So, man, I got a job, and I went to wrestle in Puerto Rico. And my wife got a hold of me. Said, hey, man, they've been calling you, and what do I tell them? I said, well, I'll be back in a couple of days. I'll get back with them. I got back, and they said, is this a joke? We've been calling you for like 20 times. What's wrong with you? I said, man, I was in Puerto Rico. And then they said, well, we'll call you back. And then they called me back, and they told me that they weren't going to do it, and they dropped it. They asked me to resign. You know, they sent me a release, which I did. You know, and gave them back their uniform. I gave back their thing. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why they don't like me. You know, but it's not something that I did. It's something maybe that they need to think that maybe they did something to cause it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've never had anything against Vince or anything, or Shane or his daughter or any of them. You know, they might think they're a little lofty. You know, but we're all made of, you know, we all have flesh and blood, man, and we're all going to go, we all have to meet our maker one day, and I want to say that I treated everybody right, and I think I treated him right. I never was, you know, disrespectful to him or anything like that, but if you wanted to know the truth, you know, the truth flows out, and if he can hear it and he hears it one day, maybe he understands it, maybe he doesn't, maybe he's still mad, so... you know, I forgive him. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I still live on, you know. I still have, God supplies my need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus, and I'll keep on.
Well, thank you. We want to thank you for coming on tonight, Hector. It's been a great time, and we'd love to have you back sometime and talk more about your career. There's a lot more to ask you.
Yeah, I've really let loose with you guys. I let you guys see, listen to exactly what I did, but, you know, with WWE and all that, and the circumstances. But I do it in confidence, and I do that something that was truth. Everything I told you tonight was truth, and, you know, I know there's two ways of looking at it. I'm sure they have their ways of looking at it, of all the circumstances that I talked about. I'm not bitter at anybody. I thank God that I had these opportunities, you know, and thank you guys for giving me an opportunity. Anybody listening, thank you for the opportunity for listening to this, Guerrero.
Excellent. Thanks, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Let the boogie woogie man feel good. I'm telling my people, all my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss this one. They're gonna be ballers going to climb the wall. Old times, you believe blood's gonna flow like wine. Woo, mustache. Boogie man feel good. Yeah. See you, Jack. See you, 1 inch. And Bobby, I love you, brother. God bless everybody.